the 2022, those are the, how many times have I said that in this video? Those are the 22 books. I'm losing my mind. Hello everyone, my name is Jenna, but you guys can call me Jen, and welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my, what should I call this? My 2022 TBR? 22 books I want to read in 2022. I asked you guys on Instagram what you wanted to see from me this week because it was between this and then a 2022 releases part 2, which is going to be coming next week. So make sure to subscribe if you haven't yet and you want to see that video. I have part 1 up. It's part of my Jen's Miss that I did in December for you guys. But today we're going to be talking about 22 books that are from my shelves that I want to read in 2022. Now this shouldn't be too hard because a lot of these are on my immediate TBR, but hopefully we'll be revisiting this at the end of the year to see if I actually did read all 22 books, or at least try to read them, whether that's get 30% on the way in and then DNF it. I'm still counting it, but I want to get to all 22 of these books at some point this year. There's no order to this absolute madness. I just have them piled around me. All right, so one of the themes that you're gonna see from me in this little thing here is a lot of sequels that I have from my shelves that I would like to get to. One of those sequels is The Kingdom of Copper by S.A. Chakraborty, which is of course the sequel to City of Brass, which is the first in S.A. Chakraborty's Devabad trilogy, and I would like to continue with this one. This is a fictionalized Cairo with magic and djinn. We have our main character Nahri, and in this book she had her life has been changed forever and since she accidentally summoned Dara in the first book and unleashed this whole adventure thing, and this is the continuation of that, so I would love to get to this year. The next one in front of me is the sequel to Chilling Effect by Valerie Valdez, which is Prime Deceptions. This is the second book in this fun, just kind of little bit nuts, different sci-fi that is, it's just a great time. It's not mind-blowing by any means, but it's just so much fun to read, and I cannot wait to get to this one when I'm in the mood for a really fun sci-fi this year. I absolutely loved Chilling Effect. It was nutty and the romance was great, and it was a good time. And there's also cats in space, so what could you not want? The first book follows our main character, Captain Eva Inocente, and the crew of La Sirena Negra, who find themselves, kind of caught up in this business where our captain cannot tell her crew what's happening because it is a secret, we've got your sister, you have to do this job for us to free her, and you can't tell anybody about it, kind of a thing. And it's absolutely bananas. So that was a good time, and this is a continuation of that series. The next one in front of me is actually a new to me book that I have really never heard anything about. I was at the Indigo 30% off sale that they had after Christmas, and with Plum Plus it was 40% off, so it was almost like the Barnes & Noble 50% off sale, but it was not. And I'm still salty that Indigo didn't get on that hype train. But that I found this one in the store as I was just walking around, and it looked really, really cool. And I think it was the spine that originally got me, which is Folklorn by Angela Mi Young Her. And the spine originally got me, and I was like, what is this? And I pulled it out, and just this cover is just absolutely stunning. I know next to nothing about this. All I know is that it is blurbed on the front by Celeste Ng, and they say, hugely ambitious, a spellbinding shapeshifter of a novel. It sounds really cool. It was shelved in fantasy, genre-defying, continent-spanning saga of Korean myth, scientific discovery, and the abiding love that binds even the most broken of families. So I'm excited to dive into this one when I do, but it's on my immediate TBR, so hopefully in the next few months I'll get to this. Next up from that same sale, I ended up picking up Little Thieves by Margaret Owen, which Margaret Owen wrote the Merciful Crow duology, which I still haven't finished the second one too, but the Merciful Crow was one of my favorite reads of 2020, I believe. It was a surprise read, a surprise 5-star for me. It was very, very good. And I have heard only good things about Little Thieves, and it has been on my radar for so long, and I needed it. I needed it desperately, so I picked it up, and I'm so excited to get into this. I honestly know nothing about it, although all I know is that there's thieves and there's hijinks, which is, I think all I need to know going into this, but I love Margaret Owen's writing and the way she crafts stories, so very excited to get to this one. And the last one from that sale that I picked up, I might as well talk about it now, is A Master of Jin by PJ Clark, which is also a story that I have been meaning to pick up for a long time. Since it was announced, really, I have had it on my radar, and I've listened to a few of PJ Clark's previous novellas that he has written in this same world, so I am really intrigued to see how he does it in this book. I know that this is a like steampunk murder mystery with elements of fantasy and sci-fi involved, so I'm into it. All right, next up I have We Ride Upon Sticks by Quanberry. I want to read this one this year because I feel like it's a good way to branch out more into literary fiction and a little bit of like differently narrated styles of fiction, because I know this is a collective we narration, which is so interesting to me. And it is a witchy book with like, it's got elements of like magical realism, I think, but it follows a team, a girls field hockey team that is like a collective we. And that's all I really know about it. And I know that Kayla from Books and Lala absolutely loves this, so I'm planning to read this very, very soon. The next one in the same vein, that is a PRSC by Susanna Clark. This is a weird book that has been on my radar for a long time. One of my friends absolutely adores it, and it has been, I believe, once comped to the Starless Sea, so as soon as someone says that, I am so intrigued and I will read it. But it just reminds me of a like Greek story vibe because of the satyr on the front. It's really it, and the column and the art style on the bottom. But it's about PRSC who's in this house. It's got infinite rooms and stuff, and there's someone else in this house who PRSC doesn't know what it is. I don't know. It's weird, and I'm excited. And the other one, might as well just talk about it now. It leans into the fantasy as well because it's a story about someone who like reincarnates in a way, but it is The First 15 Lives of Harry August by Claire North. This has been on my shelves for years now. I picked it up originally because Reagan from Proust Project had her boyfriend read it at the time. Boyfriend, he's now her fiance, Clay, and he absolutely loved it. So I was like, this sounds so interesting. And it is a like Harry, our main character, is dying, and this child comes to him and says, "Hey, Dr. August, we nearly missed you. I need you to send a message," as he's like dying. I don't know. It sounds cool. And I'm excited to read it and finally get it off my TBR. The next one is another sequel, but that is The Masked City by Genevieve Cogman. This is an Invisible Library novel, and I read The Invisible Library originally in a video, I believe in 2020, where I was reading books that were suggested to be like The Starless Sea, and it was not, but it was absolutely bonkers and caught my attention. So I really want to continue with this series because it just seems like so much fun. So I'm gonna dive in, and I really don't remember a whole lot about The Invisible Library. All I remember is that it was like there's a library that like fits between worlds, and there's alternate dimensions, and the librarians can travel between everything, and they like try to keep control of the levels of magic because every dimension has a various level of absurdity and magic to it. It's a lot. All I know is that there was like robotic alligator monsters in the first one. It was wild, but it's like Victorian London vibe too, which was really cool. But yeah, the next one I want to read is Andrea Stewart's The Bone Shard Daughter. This has also been on my TBR for a little while now, and I keep meaning to read it, and it keeps getting pushed. So I'm putting it on this TBR to prioritize it for this year, and I'm very excited about it. All I know is that it is a fantastic fantasy novel, potentially sapphic, and it is, I don't know if it's a duology or a series, but I know the second one is out now. It's got like really cool bone shard magic to it, which I love. So I'm intrigued to see what that's all about. I also want to read more sci-fi this year, as you guys know, and one of the main projects this year that I want to try and really get into is getting into the Expanse series by James A. Corey. So this is the first one. This is Leviathan Wakes, and that's why this is on this TBR, because I would really like to read this book. I also have book 3 on my shelves. I don't know if you can see it in this angle right here. Yeah, you can see it. Abaddon's Gate. I have book 3 on my shelves as well. I don't own book 2, but I'll get it eventually. But yeah, I'm really hoping that I like this. I know absolutely nothing about it, only that it is like an expansive space opera and there's potentially a murder mystery in here. Don't know. Might have heard that wrong, but I'm excited to dive into a massive sci-fi series now that I'm more familiar with sci-fi. Keeping on the sci-fi vein, I'll mention this, A Memory Called Empire by Arcady Martin. This is another sci-fi book that has been on my radar. This is also another like murder mystery in space kind of vibe. And I'm intrigued by it. Yeah, I know nothing else about it, but I want to read it. Next, we have Half Sick of Shadows by Laura Sebastian. Now, I picked this up specifically because The Lady of Shalott, which is what this quote is from, is my favorite poem of all time. I love The Lady of Shalott. It is just absolutely stunning. Every time I read it, every time I hear it, I love it so much. And this quote, "and I am half sick of shadows," is one of the most heartbreaking quotes in that entire poem. So as soon as I heard this title, I was like, yeah, 100%, I'm in, I want it. So I picked it up, and it is a Arthurian retelling with our main character, who is the Lady of Shalott. And it's like her relationships with Arthur and Morgana and Guinevere and Lancelot and, you know, the entire cast of Camelot that we know from legend. And I've read some of it previously, but I put it down because I was in the middle of moving. So I needed something with like audiobook potential. And I'm just so excited to keep going with this because what I have read is beautiful. So I'm so excited. And you always know how much I love Arthurian retellings. You know if you've been around for a while. Next up, I want to read also The Bone Maker by Sarah Beth Durst. So again, one that I've had on my shelves for a while. And I love Sarah Beth Durst. I've read most of her other work. I've read Race the Sands and her trilogy that she has with the Queens of Renthia. I believe that is what it's called, which is one of my favorite magic systems that I've ever come across and like world that I've ever come across in a book. I love the way she writes stories, so I'm really excited about this. It feels like a necromancy D&D campaign that I'm ready for, so gonna dive into this at some point. The next one I have here is Half a King by Joe Abercrombie. This I picked up specifically because I want to get into Joe Abercrombie's work, and this seemed less intimidating than his First Law series because it is quite a bit smaller, and it is, I believe, sometimes mistakenly called a YA novel. I don't know if that's mistakenly or not, but it's one of those books that could be either YA or adult, and I'm excited about it. It's got like revenge and stuff talked about on the back, so excited to finally read a Joe Abercrombie to see if I like his work. The next one is probably one of my favorite covers that I've come across, and that is The Coward by Stephen Aryan. And this is a fantasy book that I saw first on Holly Hearts Books YouTube channel, and she really liked it when she read it, so I picked it up specifically because of that. But again, it's just another fantasy novel about a guy who's about to he was a hero once and it's 10 years later and he's gonna try become a hero again kind of vibe. Super excited about that one too. There's just so many of these books. All right, let's talk about Sanderson because y'all know I love myself some Brandon Sanderson. I have 2 on my list and they're both sequels. I would really, really like to continue with the, what is this? Does it have a name? Is this trilogy? I'm not sure, but it's a sequel to Skyward, which is, this is not a trilogy. It's going to be a 4-book thing, I think. Yeah, I want to continue with this because I really, really loved Skyward when I first read it. I read it in like a day, I think. It was just absolutely captivating and incredible. I love Brandon's writing, so I really want to continue with that. This is his YA sci-fi. So again, continue with the sci-fi. And then I also want to finally read Words of Radiance, which is the sequel to Way of Kings, and keep going with this behemoth of a series. I have this really probably stupid goal to read The Way of Kings, which is the first one, read The Way of Kings in 24 hours. So you might see that video at some point. I have a goal to try and do that, to read this in 24 hours and then dive into this one, because the audiobooks for each of these are like well over 45 hours long because they are upwards of 1,000 pages. So I really want to see if I can do it, but I need to reread Way of Kings before I dive into this one because I forgot so much that was what's happened in this series to keep going with it, but very excited to keep going with this absolutely epic fantasy series. I would also really like to continue with Robert Jordan's fantasy series. That's like an honorary mention. That I didn't include on this list because I had 22 other books that I wanted to talk about, but epic fantasy series, I'm all here for it. Next one is The Bards Blade by Brian D. Anderson. This is a, I don't know, fantasy book? You would have never guessed. This is a fantasy book with like magic and music, and it's about bards, and it's an adventure novel as well. So y'all know I love that kind of stuff, and I'm here for all the fantasy novels. And again, Holly Hearts Books really liked it when she read it, so that's why it's on my list, because I take recommendations from all of my fantasy YouTubers. The next one, again, is a sequel. This is the last one in a trilogy that I loved last year, and I really would love to finish the trilogy this year. But that is The Dragon of Ginsayang, which is the 3rd book in the Chronicles of the Bitch Queen by K.S. Veloso. And y'all know how much I love this book series. It is my favorite. I absolutely love it, and I love Queen Tao, and Kine or Kine, however you pronounce his name, is my favorite character. I love him so much, and I'm ready for all of the emotional pain that this book is going to cause me. I'm ready. But yeah, this is the third in that trilogy. All right, friends, that was book 20. We got 2 more. The next one is a recently acquired book. Again, that is a translated work, and that is A Hero Born by Jin Young. This is the first in the Legends of the Condor Heroes series, I guess, but it is a originally Chinese written world, or Chinese written book, and it's been translated by Anna Holmwood, which I think is really cool, and I'm really excited to read this. It's a Chinese epic, and apparently it is written in a tradition, like a more traditional Chinese storytelling method, not a Western one that I'm familiar with, so I'm really excited to read it to really get the feeling of that story structure, because y'all know I love me some story structure, so super excited about that one. And then last on this list, number 22. I haven't actually been keeping count, but I know there's 22 because I counted them many times. That is the Helm of Midnight by Marina Lastetter. This is like a thriller fantasy book, so I am ready. It's a mysterious and mind-ripping journey through the mystic depths of time and the darkness of the human psyche, says Matt Wallace on the back. So I'm excited to get to this one when I do. But yes, my friends, that is it. Those are the 22 books in 2022 that I want to read. And I am so excited about every single one of them. And I'm excited to read my TBR, my physical TBR that I have behind me finally, and like shrink it exponentially by reading all of these this year. I'm holding myself accountable. We're going to do a check-in video at the end of 2022 to see if I actually did it. And we'll see all my thoughts on these lovely books then. But if you haven't yet subscribed, just stay tuned to watch all my wrap-ups, all of my reading videos, my reading vlogs, and my writing videos. I'm hoping to do more of those this year as well. Stick around. My corner of the internet is pretty fun, in my humble opinion. Anyways, my lovely friends, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like this video if you did, and I will catch you in another video very, very soon. Stay kind and keep on reading.